Hello, just doing a small little podcast here with Gaven and
Indigo.
Indigo. I guess Indigo doesn't want to use his legit name yet, but maybe eventually. So, yeah, we're just going to be vibing and chilling, just talking about, our thoughts on society, the world, working on ourselves, emotion, love, vibration, and some potential roadblocks into getting the full scoop of truth. Some movements, maybe some groups of thought and being that are good to watch out for. And to mention it in particular, we're going to say the New Age movement. There's a lot of positive love oriented in this movement, but at the same time, it's good to see if you're being held back and growing as an individual. So we'll just begin it here.
Yeah, I think the New Age is very passive. I think that they come from a place of bypassing what needs to be really looked at, and they fail to realize they live in a reality that's separate from the actuality in which they live in.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like viewing something as separate versus as like a together holistic unit, right?
Right. So it creates an illusion within an illusion.
Yeah.
Because the actuality in which we live in is an illusion in itself. And when you create an illusion within that illusion,
illusionception,
it creates complete confusion.
Exactly, and you can never really connect or vibe with someone in like a deep, meaningful way because that person's, I guess, in that illusion.
Yeah.
And you can't really get truth and facts and understanding out of a lie, basically.
Exactly.
You can learn bits and pieces here and there, like you can learn to identify physical things in the physical world. But at the same time, you can make up ideas about what they are and how they function and what you think about them or what you believe about them. It's like the thought of trying to, I guess, observe, storms and rain and cycles and gravity and, year cycles, things of that nature from like outside of a natural perspective. So what I mean is those are objective phenomenon. You can't deny that the sun's going to rise in the morning.
Right,
you can't deny that the sun's going to set. You can't deny that it's going to rain at some point in time. Like, these are just matter-of-fact statements of the world that we're living in right now. And to deny the reality that you're living in is just pure ignorance. Because you're denying what's in front of you. And there needs to be like a combination between the factual, understanding-based view of the world, like, okay, the sun's going to rise and the sun's going to set. But outside of that, you get into the realm of, well, is this cycle going to last forever? Does this cycle have a lifespan? Does Earth have a lifespan? Does the sun have a lifespan? It gets into the deep realm of bigger aspects and versions of years and times where, like, I know that the sun's going to rise, but do I forever know that the sun's going to rise? It gets into that realm of like the known. This is all about the masculine feminine connection. It's like, I know that the sun's going to rise, but do I know that the sun's going to rise at the same time? When is the earth expired? When does the earth die? When does it explode? Or is that even a fact, So that's, I guess, kind of what I want to talk about with the whole energies and masculine feminine aspects that everyone needs to balance within themselves, Don't get too caught up in you can't know anything and like science is total bogus, but don't get too caught up in the opposite of, oh, science can tell us everything about the entire world and anything that's opposite of science is totally not considerable, What are your thoughts on that?
There are definitely scientists, a lot of the scientists that give us the language we speak, because back then, scientists were just considered alchemists. They were considered
exactly
gypsies, witches, medicine men, shamans.
Mm-hmm.
The Aztecs, the Mayans, they were all doctors. And so,
and they were more of the form of medicine of the unknown, right? Like a more of earth, more of nature.
yeah.
And the modern doctor is more of control and science and like straight linear thinking, and the herbal is of the holistic view and the total natural view of like all these plant compounds and the earth and the sun and the vibration, all these components play into health. You can't just isolate one thing and say that this single atom is what you need to alter in your body to feel a certain way. You know, it's like, and in saying that, like with the form of medicine of the natural days, yeah, I think about that a lot. It's definitely more productive and more earth-based, but you know, as humans evolve and changed, is that form of medicine and healing even, does it even become like needed after a point in time? That's the whole thing of like, we know this, but do we know this in the length of time?
That brings up an interesting
Do you know what I mean?
point. That brings
Yeah.
up an interesting point because, you know, I thought about the whole structure in which our society is based around is relying on the very substance in which the host is the host, right? So, for example, the police officer wouldn't be an officer if there was no crime. The doctor wouldn't be a doctor if there was no sickness.
Yeah, exactly.
The hospital wouldn't be the hospital, right? So it's like everything that is created around occupation and career and status quo and all these things is basically parasitic. And then, you know, you get to a point as a society and as an individual where you become so evolved to where nobody is sick anymore because we start actually seeking for truth. We're seeking these deeper answers on why we're being sick. Why are we falling sick? Why are we so confused as a society?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we so, you know, just like that sun rising and setting, and you know the sun's going to rise and you know the sun's going to set, but then you also have the question, is there an ending to this cycle? So then you go into a relationship aspect with that, like there's a rise and a set to a relationship, just like that sun. There's always a beginning and an end to something, a transition. And, you know, a lot of this is, I feel like a lot of it just causes confusion with our people, you know? And, yeah.
Yeah, I really vibe with that. I see where you're going. We don't understand cycles, I think.
Time and cycles, like what is natural time, what is
yeah,
man-made time.
Linear time is so different than natural time. I feel like natural time is like, it's not a circle, it's like an oval. You know, it's like some points of the oval are longer, more stretched, and then the ends of the oval are more rounded and curved. And I think, isn't that what like we've come to identify the orbit around the planets as? It's not a circle. Like all those little animated picture images of like all the planets revolving around the sun in like a perfect circle. I think that's bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it revolves around like in like an oval shape because that signifies like a cycle, like an energy cycle, and then you get into the cycle of, okay, is this going to be here forever?
Right.
But like this, not even a cycle is like a linear thing. You know, cycles can flow and change, but they can still cycle. Like you can have an atom crash into another atom, but then they can still like function and then re-energize and like readapt back to themselves and get back in order.
Create mitosis, right?
Yeah. So like I guess in any like connection with anyone in the world, you know, you can have instances where you think like it's the end, but it's not truly the end, because all it takes is one spark or one reawakening in an atom to reignite that cycle that's been created. And I think that's like the love and the life, which is why love's so powerful, because it can create life out of death, you know?
Absolutely.
Life is like growth and abundance. Like, dude, a seed. You have a seed in the soil. Life through death. You have plant roots that eat all this stuff that we label as death, right? It's matter that's like not living, right? Not living matter. And this seed creates this life up top and death in the bottom and feeds on the death to create life. You know, just a crazy idea that I had pop in my head that I needed to get out.
Mycelium is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, and I'm just using that to explain relationships.
Right.
You know, no relationship's ever done.
Yeah.
A cycle can be reactivated
Absolutely.
through a spark. You know, nothing is permanent. Nothing is forever. You know? It's like
all impermanence.
the now, I think the now is what's forever.
Right.
I think the here and now in the present moment is eternity. And I think that's all there really is, you know? And outside of that is just like, I mean, that's just like past, future thinking, obviously.
Would you say that not being in the now is what the illusion is?
Yeah.
That's what creates the illusion and the confusion?
Yeah. I think it does, because think about it. Whenever you're not, or when you're somewhere else, when
Right.
your thinking is in the past or your thinking is in the future, you're not here. You're not operating in the here and now. Where are you? Where's your mind?
Well, then your mind goes into, because if your conscious mind isn't coincided with the subconscious, which is basically the body, the body is the below mind. When your conscious mind isn't working in mindfulness and,
you got some water?
and harmony with the body goes on to autopilot, and then eventually the body starts to operate based on what its environment is doing, which we can see if we observe society and people, that's clearly not the answer, and that the answer is
what answer?
Being on autopilot. And having the conscious mind being detached from the physical vessel, the human body.
Yeah, that's how we're controlled in the system,
Because it's the same as giving somebody alcohol or putting somebody, under MK Ultra. It's the same. It's to put them in a hypnagogic state, to hypnotize somebody. And when you can learn mindfulness and to be in the present moment, I feel like it gives you more control, like how a lot of people seek control. They say the only control you have is over yourself. And
it's true, man. It's true.
And I've even thought of that, like, there's a side of that where, do we even have that? What if?
In a sense, yes. Yes and no.
Yes and no.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Your body is trillions of microorganisms.
Right.
Trillions. Doing things, probably making their own program decisions about your body, what you've eaten, breaking down stuff, like transporting nutrients here and there. Dude, it is if we could study every part of it, like all of the communication relationships that our body has with itself.
It's a whole universe.
Dude, it's a whole universe, man. Inside of us. So yes, we have we are the driver, but we aren't at the same time.
Right.
It's like that's the universe, man. It's like one component of the universe is creating that part of itself. Everything plays a role in an ecosystem, but everything's also being controlled by everything else in that ecosystem. And this is the free will, but you don't have free will thing. It's like, you do, but you don't.
It makes you wonder, what if the mind, because, they say as above, so below, as within, so without. What if the mind is the central sun, and then you have...
Of the universe?
Of the universe.
Yeah,
and
probably.
then you have each organ, you have, 12 main organs. You have 12 organs, or 12 systems in the body, and each system is actually a dimension. They say you have access to 12 dimensions, 12 universes, 12 different parallel.
Is that why they say there are 12 dimensions?
Right.
There's just 12 dimensions, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't go past that.
Yeah.
As far as we know.
So what if the 12 dimensions of the mind of that central sun are actually the 12 systems within our body, because our body acts as like a map of the universe.
It's a universe, right?
And as we study the body,
it's a reflection.
We study it. They say, know thyself and you shall know God and the universe.
Yeah, exactly. That was in the Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a Bible quote.
Yeah. So
love to get the verse on that.
Yeah. So
do you know which one it is?
I don't.
No. Okay. We'll have to figure that out.
But you could also use it as an example as, you say you're in a house. The house would be like the mind, and then you have the living room. That's a dimension. You have the garage. That's another dimension, and each dimension has its own ego. Because imagine this house, which is a representation of the mind. It has an awareness of itself. It has a self-identity. But with each dimension within it has its own identification. And so then you look at people that have multiple different identities, right? And
they haven't combined all of them together, right?
Into one.
Yeah. That's a spiritual kind of understanding, right?
Yeah.
It's like people have a lot of versions of themselves, and that's okay. It just means that you haven't got the one. You haven't combined them,
Okay.
And we all do it in our own way, of course. Like, I'd say it's rare to find a person that's like totally combined one within themselves. I'm not even there.
Definitely not.
There are parts of my 12 house living room, or 12 room house, we'll call it, my 12-room house, that I have not cleaned up in a while.
Yep.
That I'm working on, that I'm pulling out trash sacks from. I gotta reorganize that room. That room is fucked up.
Right.
But yeah, that's deep. Yeah, that's really deep, man. That's really deep.
And then it goes even deeper, and then you say, okay, so we talk about fate. We talk about destiny.
Yeah.
And I've meditated on this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I've thought, okay, well, they say we have free will.
Turn off. That's right.
You have the perspective of free will as being an individual and having your own will, which it can actually cause separation in a society. If you tell everybody, as a church, as a mosque, as a temple, as a whatever it may be, you have free will, God gave you free will, then that kind of creates separation, because then that means that your will is done unto you and my will is done unto me, and that's your opinion, that's your belief.
Yeah, but we're all together is what you're saying, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So then if you think about it on the opposite end of that, where, say, we don't have free will, and there's planetary bodies above us and also within us, to call these organs, these glands, the chakras, the cells, the central sun, the universe within the body. It's responding to the stimuli around its environment, and the planets and the stars and the constellations above. So it's like, what is governing those? What's governing that? The life that is beyond just this body here.
Yeah, like we think we've got it all figured out, right?
Yeah.
Like, just because we can look at stuff through a telescope and a microscope.
Exactly.
And we have our big Hubble space telescopes, then we know everything.
Yeah.
When
our ancestors never needed microscopes, they knew more than we know now.
Because they knew themselves.
With having microscopes. They knew more than we know now with having that technology.
Yeah.
And we need the technology because there's a retardation that's happened within the DNA. And when you talk about these 12 different dimensions, you're talking about the 12 apostles of the sun, which is the mind, the central sun, the S-U-N.
Yeah.
The sun of that universe. And the governor of your harmonization, your hormones, your glands, your chakras, the governor of these archetypes. Satan being Saturn, which is the root. You have these different gods that our ancestors always called, they were gods, and they're really just the chakras. Mm-hmm. The planets that ruled the microcosm. And I honestly think that your DNA, what determines your DNA coding, is your astrological programming, based on the date that you logged in, not your birth date, but your login date, that you actually logged into this realm. You woke up in this realm and you're like, okay, I'm ready to actually start observing this experience with this ego, with this identity of this character that I want to play in this astrological chart.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because my chart has everything that's happening in my reality actually mapped out according to how my higher self has logged me into this egoic experience.
Okay. Okay, that is some deep shit. Whoa. Wow, that really puts in some validity that I've been a bit skeptical towards, astrological and zodiac stuff. But I can't, it's not like I can dismiss it. I think I dismiss it when I get too much in the logical, linear aspects of life. It's like, oh, the stars, they're just there.
Yeah.
It's like, but why are they there? What are they doing there? What is their purpose? What are they doing to me? Everything outside of me responds to me.
Yeah.
And if it's all a big reflection,
vice versa.
Yeah, vice versa. It goes both ways. So to dismiss that, I think in this moment I definitely realize I need to study more and think more about, astrological thinking and science and the cosmos, because in studying the outside of yourself, you can learn more about the inside of yourself too, and just the relationships and the correlations.
At least the natural cycles of the outside.
Yeah, and understanding what's happening now, dude.
Yeah.
And then, for example, like with the rising and the setting sun in the very beginning of our conversation, it's like these observable symbols and signs outside of us, are these going to change in cycles? Is the Earth going to change its rotation, and now we're going to see different stars in the cosmos, and we're going to have to map out and figure out those for their cycle?
What's interesting about what you're saying is, one thing that I could say that creativity could be productivity, and how we could actually apply creativeness into our lives, and actually how to survive in an age of such significant change and growth and transformation, is being able to use our creativity to say, okay, this is a Kia K5 2021, right? But what
rental,
will it
baby.
Be? Rental. But what will it be 50 years from now or 1,000 years from now? So we can use our creativity to say, and you can relate that to anything. You could relate that to the mutations within the vaccine or within the, food, whatever it may be. You can use this question of, okay, things are constantly changing. Things are constantly, it's basically just life is a symbol being presented to us. And that symbol gives us images that represent a specific ideological image in a mass majority of people's minds. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you want to repeat that last part for me? So I can understand that more.
So reality is basically, it's a symbol given to us through imagery.
Yeah, basically.
And those images are designed to be placed into a conscious collective amount of people.
For multiple perspectives.
For multiple different intentions.
Units. Yeah.
And eventually, and also those symbols and that imagery is based on the age in which that species is in. So, we just came out of Pisces. That age was being influenced with language, symbols, hierarchy, all these things in a specific way.
Can I ask you a question, since you're really knowledgeable about this topic?
Sure.
What is the next age? Are we in Aquarius, I've heard? Is that the age?
That's what they say, yeah.
How do we figure out what they symbolize and what they mean? Is it through studying people? And just why we do what we do?
I think it's through studying cycles, patterns.
Yeah. Patterns of people?
Patterns of people, patterns of the cycles of movement, and mathematical equation of the stars and the planets
Yeah,
and how
so
things move.
you know what the age of Aquarius is supposed to symbolize?
Well, if you look at basically Pisces it's a mutable sign, which means that it's a changing, it changes. It's the last sign of the zodiac, and so we're actually going back. So if you could imagine the zodiac as a circle, you got Pisces at about 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Say if you're looking at a clock, it's at 9 o'clock, and then you got Aries at 8 o'clock, and then you got Aquarius is at about 10 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we're actually going up. So we're going backwards.
Oh, okay, I see.
So we're going from Pisces to Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
And so Aquarius is actually a man dumping water out, exposing Pisces, because Pisces is a water sign. Aquarius is air. Aquarius is an air sign. So, and they're also a humanitarian. People that are Aquarius are usually very sociable. They're very, they always got to be around people. They got to help people. They just love people. They love humanity. And so I think that's the time that we're going into. And I bring up being immutable and using creativity to be able to transition into the times that we're going into, because there's a lot of people that are committing suicide. There's a lot of elderly people that don't know how to work, these gadgets, the technology, and a lot of us are being left behind. And I think that we can use our creative process within us to be able to be adaptable
Mm-hmm.
to what's happening through using our imagination. Albert Einstein said the greatest form of intelligence is imagination.
Yeah, it really is.
And not judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree, but just observe that fish swim in its natural environment. I made that part up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Well, we're coming up on 27 minutes here. What would you want to go? Maybe 35? That'd be good for a first podcast? All right. Yeah. We'll chit-chat for a little bit longer.
I know I've kind of been all over the place, but I just...
No, I see your insight, and I see how it connects and relates.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I've meditated on that quite a bit, fate and destiny, and how, like, what determines it. Because I've noticed for me, I am very influenced by the planets and where they're located. Like if I, say my mood is different today than it was yesterday, and I look at my chart and I say, okay, where are my transiting planets? Oh, Mars is here. That's why I'm a little bit agitated. Or maybe that's why I'm a little angry at this person, or I'm a little triggered here, or maybe I'm a little emotional because it's a full moon, and I can feel how these planets really are affecting me. And yeah, it just makes you wonder,
I'm seeing more and more how the importance and not the dismissal of these energies. Like, they're definitely big contributing, influencing factors for not just our behavior, but like the energy and the behavior of those that are on Earth,
Yeah. And the key is to become aware of it so you can actually manipulate it.
And alchemize it, right? That's alchemy. That's where it comes from, right?
Because manipulation is a good thing, but you have to have a pure heart before you learn. Because a true master manipulator is an alchemist. They're a scientist. That's what we do as scientists and as philosophers and as people that go deep into thought, is we manipulate spirit and matter for a specific cause. And I think that before you do that, it takes, you have to know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a process.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah, man, I'm happy that we've engaged in this discussion. We're just in a parking lot chatting, and there's someone else in another corner.
Maybe they got the telepathic idea, hey, we should do a podcast.
Maybe we're just inspirational energy here right now.
You know, I've also thought, I know we're kind of getting to the end of it, but I just wanted to bring it up. It's
We have
like,
about 5 minutes left.
I've also thought, like, where are we actually located? Like, this is a question that the average person would say, well, I'm located in this car. I'm located in a parking lot. I'm located in so-and-so, Utah. I'm located on the Earth, in the solar system, in the universe. But then you ask, you know, okay, well, what if I'm here, but I'm also everywhere and I'm nowhere at the same time?
Well, dude, that's the electron, isn't it?
Yeah.
Electron can exist 2 places simultaneously.
Right.
Right?
Quantum entanglement.
Yeah, it's like, dude. It's like, dude. It's just crazy. That's all I can even say to it.
Yeah.
It's unreal to even process with the linear mind. But again, once the feminine, creative, intuitive mind can incorporate itself, it's obvious. It's like, well, yeah, of course. Like, no one, like, how can I be creative and build and do all this? It's like, well, because I can be doing 2 things at once simultaneously at the same time. Like, I can combine the male and the female and do something that, I guess, is a manipulation of nature. It's an alchemy of nature.
Absolutely.
Building and creating and manifesting, it's natural alchemization. And, like, you know, I don't know if we're supposed to do that. Maybe not that we're not supposed to, but maybe that we get to see the consequences and the reflection of what we should or shouldn't do with our alchemy. You know, like making plastics or building and creating polluting energy forms. It's like
working with things that we don't really know what, like, the cause of why we're doing it, and also the effect of what it's going to do.
Yeah, and that comes from our immaturity and intellectualization of matter.
And would you say it has a lot to do with instant satisfaction and gratification, and people want comfort, and they, you know what I mean?
Can you explain
doing
the
things,
relationship?
Just doing things without knowledge. They do it half-assed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they do it because they just... Well, I think it's because they have to mass produce. Because they know the general people aren't actually creating for themselves.
Oh, why the system creates these things out of the energy. It's for the control. It's for the control system, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because we're not going to do it, but we want to have it because it's cool. So then, you know, the more people, the more money, right?
Yeah.
But
I do think we need to double think why we're doing what we're doing, whether it's relationships, whether it's friendships, whether it's a job, money, whatever it may be. Because these are all forms of alchemy. It's all forms of manipulation. You know, you just walking, talking, just being here and existing is manipulating energy. Because we're a complex species. We're the most complex species. And that's what I think the human is supposed to do, is manipulate energy.
The most that we know of.
Yeah.
At least you and I.
Yeah.
The most complex being in species.
Because I think that we're cells within the organism of the earth, but I think what sets us apart from all the other cells within this organism is that we're actually the neuron cell.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're that strong force.
We're basically the mind of the earth. We're basically the brain of it. So whatever the neuron cells do, the earth does. So as human beings start acting up and becoming plague-like and virus-like,
I knew you were going to bring up the cancer cell version
the
of
earth
human.
starts to shake more. And you got these tsunamis and these earthquakes and hurricanes and all these things, and maybe you'll hear about it more in this year, and then this year there won't be as much. And you got all this confusion. That's why I've brought up confusion a few times, is that,
Do you want to wrap it up on confusion? What's your last thought on confusion?
well, just like everything that we've been discussing is,
Mm-hmm.
diving into, ultimately, I think that we're all a little bit confused and we're all trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, the idea is to not be confused and just to be present in the moment.
Would you say that's vibing in love, unconditional love?
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I feel the same. I'm happy we had a good conversation, and to those that do end up and do choose to listen to this in its entirety, you've learned something about a little bit about Indigo and I. We're just two guys just kicking it back, talking, vibing. Just putting a podcast out there, some knowledge for other people to take into themselves, learn, and yeah, this will be historical for us.
Definitely.
Out.
Much love. Much love.
Much love.